Okay. Hi, I'm Anne Arnold with From the Vine to Wine, and I'm here today with Santiago Deicas from Familia Deicas Winery in Uruguay. Just to let you know a little bit about him, in 2021, he was named one of the 5 most influential winemakers in South America by Decanter magazine, and in 2020, the Young Winemaker of the Year by Tim Atkin. So I am so excited to talk to you from far away in Uruguay about the country, about your winery, about your wines, about your passions. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Hi, Anne. It's my pleasure to be here.
So many people don't associate Uruguay with wine. I mean, everyone thinks about Malbec and Argentina, maybe thinks a little bit about Chile, but tell us, why is Uruguay such a great place and an up-and-coming place for wine?
Okay, great. Well, to start with, we are in the southern hemisphere in the 33rd parallel, which is the latitude in the south where the great wines are made, like Santiago de Chile, Mendoza, even Cape Town in South Africa, Adelaide in Australia, and also in New Zealand, where the great wines are made. They're all in the same latitude. So we have the seasons perfectly separated, and the weather is the right for the wine growing. Afterwards, what makes us quite unique is the proximity to the Atlantic Ocean. All our vineyards are, in Uruguay, 80% of the vineyards are in the coast. We are between Argentina and Brazil, right in front of the Atlantic Ocean, and all our vineyards are influenced by this ocean. That means that we have natural rains. We have the same amount of rains like Bordeaux in France. And if you think about it, Bordeaux is also very close to the Atlantic Ocean. The same as in Galicia, in Spain, there's also a very Atlantic Ocean influence and rains. So our viticulture has something to do with the New World Southern Hemisphere because of this sun that we get, but also this Atlantic influence that also links us with France, especially Bordeaux, and also Galicia.
So when we talk about the wines a little bit later, I can see that there's a lot of influence, a lot of crossover. So tell us about your family winery and about your experience as the winemaker there.
Yeah, of course. Well, my family started in the wine business in 1979. So my grandfather, he bought this winery, and it is quite interesting because when he bought Establecimiento Juanico Winery, it was a winery dedicated to make wine, especially for distillating the wine and making cognac. And Uruguay had the right to label cognac given by the French government because the Uruguayan government had forgive a debt that the French had with Uruguay after the Second World War, because we sold a lot of beef to the army, and they owed part of the debt, and the Uruguayan government said, okay, that's okay, you don't have to pay. And as a gesture of thankfulness, the French government sent specialists from cognac. They sent the technology and also some vines to teach us and give us the right to make cognac. So we made in Uruguay cognac and labeled cognac. I think is the only place outside France to have the right to make cognac for so many years.
Wow, that's amazing. I did not know that information.
No, that is quite unique, and it has a lot to do with why we are making good wines. And when my grandfather started this, with my father, they brought specialists also from cognac in the 1980s. So we could make things better, no? And when they came, cognac is very, very close to Bordeaux. And when they came, they said, okay, for making good cognac, you should do this and this. But look, you have argilo-calcaire, that means clay and limestone soils. You are at 20 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. You have the same amount of rains like Bordeaux. So the temperatures are perfect. So you should try. You could make really amazing wines. And at that time in Uruguay, also in Argentina, there was a huge consumption of wine consumption. So people were drinking a lot of wine. So there was not a really need for wineries to differentiate in quality, because as long as they could make wine, they could sell it, because it was a lot of demand and the wineries were selling a lot of wine. This idea became in the mind of my family. A few years later, the cognac consumption dropped, and my grandfather with my father, they decided to change everything and go for this crazy thing that was the idea of making high-end wines. At that moment, in the late 80s, there was not many wineries in Uruguay thinking about this, because all the consumption was of table wine, and the high-end wine was imported. My
Oh,
family tells me that in the 90s, until the 90s, if you would host a dinner at home in Uruguay, you would never give Uruguayan wine, because it was like a lack of respect for the guests. Yeah.
okay.
So
That's changed now, right?
that
Thanks to
changed a
you.
lot. That changed a lot. But my family were pioneers. Also, other wineries had this vision of the possibility of making really good wine in Uruguay. In my family, what we did is we started exporting wine and also getting very important recognitions that we're going to talk about with Preludio later. And with those recognitions, we then started selling the wine in Uruguay and showing how the wine is perceived outside Uruguay. And we changed the mindset of Uruguayan consumers so they could really enjoy and be confident about the quality that we could make in Uruguay.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Especially that you were able, your family was able to pivot so easily. I know, I'm sure it was risky at the time, but so you're basically like Southern Hemisphere Bordeaux with your maritime
Yes.
climate, with your soils, with the conditions. And so these grapes that are growing, especially your Preludio is really very much like a Bordeaux blend,
Yes, it
right?
is.
And
Yes,
Tannat
it is.
is that Southwest France
Yeah. Well,
variety.
if you like, we can start talking about Preludio, and we can taste this wine, and then we let the white to the end. Do you enjoy the white at the end?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about the Preludio. So I'm
Okay.
going to one the label.
Yeah. This is the
So
Preludio. You are tasting the Preludio Familia Deicas. The red blend is a 2018 harvest, and this is the youngest harvest available in the market. The way
really,
we make, yes, the way we make Preludio
oh,
is
beautiful.
we have 12 different vineyards, all in the south all in the coast of Uruguay, and all those terroirs, they are candidates. All the wines that we produce from those terroirs, they are Preludio candidates. So we put in different barrels each year, and then we age it through 3 years. So we are screening only the best barrels reach the end of the 3 years of aging. Then we make the Preludio blend. Then we bottle the wine and we age it 3 more years in bottle. So it's at least 6 years since the harvest. So we can show how the aging potential of Uruguay it is, and you can experience how well it ages.
The tannins are lovely. They're there, but they're very soft and velvety. I can really taste a little bit of that oak too. But so smooth. It has a lot of a Bordeaux feel to it, but there's a little bit more punch, I guess, to it, a little bit more emphasis, a little more concentration than just your regular Bordeaux. And is that from maybe having the Tannat in there, or
Yes,
what makes it special?
It's definitely has something to do with Tannat. It has Part of the blend is made with Tanat, and part of the blend is the Bordeaux blend, classic blend. So we have this Tanat, this backbone that gives the Tanat, and then we have the classic Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot. Usually we are like in between 10 to 20% of each.
Mhm.
And then we have a little bit of Petit Verdot and a little bit of Marcelin. With those
Oh, okay,
six,
Marcelin.
yes.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a spicy earthiness to it that's just beautiful. You have someone with you.
Yes, this is Amalia. This is my young
Hello.
daughter.
Hello.
Hello. So, what makes special Preludio? Some things that makes it very special. One is the importance of the aging of the barrels in a special underground cellar that we have. That was
Oh.
built, yes, was built by the Jesuit in 1764. It's very, very
Wow.
old cellar, underground cellar for Uruguay, yes. And but Preludio has been made there since the beginning. 1992 was the first harvest. And once we changed the place, we decided to take out all the barrels from there and put it in a new facility, easier to handle and easier to work with
Mhm.
lifts, and not everything by hand like in the underground cellar. And that was the 2012 harvest of Preludio. And when we were making the blend of that year, we had many barrels that individually had really good quality. So we would be able to make Preludio. But there was not any possibility of blending that could get the Preludio identity. So we decided to not make Preludio to 2012. And we realized that the problem was not the quality of the harvest, because it was good, was our mistake of taking out the barrels, never put them in this cellar. So then we realized the importance of the cellar, and we could take the barrels of the 2013 down to the cellar, and then we could age the 2013 and save the 2013.
Wow.
And now we use this concept of it needs more cellar. In Uruguay, we call it cava. It needs more
Yeah.
cava when it needs more time in the
Mhm.
cellar. Yes, and we've been increasing a little bit the time. Now it's 3 years. It used to be 2 and a few months. Now we are in 3 years because of this impact of the cellar.
That's amazing. It just goes to show how many nuances there are in winemaking, and so many choices that you have that can determine the outcome. Now, tell me about the barrels. So I can taste there's a little bit of oak, but it's really very, very subtle. It's
Well,
really
the
more the
barrels,
first and the tertiary are
yes,
coming
we don't
across.
use so many new barrels. We
Mm-hmm.
use mainly second and third use. There's
Mm-hmm.
a few of them new, and
Mm-hmm.
we change. We are like researchers, We like to know what's going on and research, and we every time we put different vineyards in different barrels. We take notes every year, and we say, okay, last year this Merlot from this vineyard was amazing in these two tonnellaries, and this one was not so amazing. So the next year we don't use the third tonnellary, and we add a new one,
Oh,
and we are continuously mastering the techniques of aging and using of barrels.
wow. That's really fascinating. So I'm going to just show the bottle again. This is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful wine.
And you know what? We were talking about what changed our mindset in Uruguay about winemaking.
Mhm.
And in 1992, the 1992 harvest of Preludio, 1992 harvest of Preludio, in 1997, Vinitaly, this Vinitaly is this very, very important wine fair in Italy, in Verona.
Yes.
We had this crazy, really, really amazing recognition of being the only wine outside Italy or France to being selected the best wine of Vinitaly.
Wow,
Imagine that, yes, it was huge. It was
that's
huge.
impressive. That's
Yeah,
wonderful. Wow. I
yeah.
mean, it's a, it's, it's a fantastic wine. Is
Thank you
this,
very much.
do you consider this, sort of your flagship wine, showing really what your vineyards and what your winery can do as far as, not emulating, but having that Bordeaux quality?
Well, it is our icon, our family icon wine. We've been doing it since 1992, so it's more than 30 years. We know that it can age more than 30 years because 1992, 1995, they are amazing right now and they can age a little bit longer. And it is the one that if I can show only one wine to somebody, it's Preludio because it shows what Uruguay can make, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those Jesuit monks really knew what they were doing with that cellar, huh?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's
Yeah.
I didn't even know they had you know, that many cellars or anything really in
No,
Uruguay. That's wonderful
yeah, it's a huge
that you
history that
have
we
the
have.
access to that.
Yeah. Vale,
So the
necesito que te
next
vayas,
one I
porfis.
want to talk
Laura,
about
porfa, ayuda.
is the coastal Tana. And
Yeah.
many people watching this might not really recognize this varietal, but it's in the same way that I guess Argentina has really sort of embraced Malbec and Chile has embraced Carmenere. Tannat is one of the grapes that does incredibly well outside of France in Uruguay, right?
Yeah. We are, as a country, we are the biggest producers of Tanat. And Tanat is known for being a tannic, astringent variety. And it
Mhm.
was used mainly for blends in
Mhm.
France. And in Uruguay, we also been using Tanat for many years as a very strong astringent variety that it's adapted very well to our weather, our terroir, and
Mhm.
also to our gastronomy. You know, a lot of Argentinian people, and you know that in Argentina, as also in Uruguay, we eat asados, we eat barbecue very often. Almost every 2 days, we are eating beef.
Yeah.
We are the number one beef eaters in the world.
Really?
Yeah, and we need to marry it with a very tannic wine to help us, you know, be be there with all these beef. So we are used to this concentration. Also, we drink mate, which is very bitter and very strong. So for Uruguayans, it always been very easy to understand and to drink Tanat. What we've been seeing,
This is beautiful, by the way.
thank you very much. What we've been seeing that outside Uruguay is kind of difficult to understand those so tannic wines.
Mhm.
And in 2012, with my father, we decided to to talk with Paul Hobbs and see if he would be interested on consulting us. And we've been we are really proud that since 2012, he's been working with us. Paul Hobbs, you know, he's the winemaker of Paul Hobbs wines in the US. Also, Viña Cobos, he's one of the owners of Viña Cobos in Argentina. He's been recognized of being one of the responsibles of this big change and success with Malbec in Argentina. And we wanted to find a more international style of Tanat, more elegant or more approachable,
Yeah.
not only for people who are eating barbecue every 2 days, basically.
Yeah. It's it's surprisingly light and
Yes,
refreshing,
yes,
and the tannins are very smooth.
yes.
And this does not have any time in wood, right?
No, this is
Yeah.
not wood. In the
Yeah,
past,
it's
the
lovely.
way in the past the way we used to soften the tannins was adding oak and aging in barrels.
Yeah.
But we found that that's not the best way. The best way is start with the wine with the right amount, the right concentration of tannins, and only the best quality tannins.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been researching and making different experimentations, And one day, taking some of Paul Hobbs' idea of making really good Cabernet Sauvignon, a really good Malbec, told my team, what if we, instead of making very long macerations, like making if you go to all the wineries in the best places in the world, except for Pinot Noir is something very different. All the other varietals, the classic varietals, Cabernet Sauvignon Franc, Malbec, Merlot, even Petit Verdot, you make really good, you have really good grapes, and you extract, you macerate as long and as possible to extract as much as possible, because everything is amazing, and there's no risk of over extraction of tannins. In Tanat, there is a risk. So if you follow this recipe, that's what I think that what we've been doing for many years, the final result is a very impressive wine. Obviously, everyone noticed that the grape was amazing and the wine is really good, but it's so astringent that you cannot drink more than one glass. And
I could drink more than one glass of this.
Yeah, because this is different.
It feels like a Pinot. It feels like a Pinot Noir as far as it's very, like you said, elegant. It's fruity, but not cloyingly fruity. It's subtly fruity. The tannins are just velvety, and they're not like a punch in the mouth like you might have maybe with the old style, right?
Well, here is the secret that we discover is that for this variety, for Tanat, the tannins that you get in the skin are enough, and you don't need to extract the tannins from the seed. In other, like in a Cabernet Sauvignon, if we would do this, there would not be enough tannins to have a decent wine, and also the color will be too unstable, because you need tannins from the seed to get more stable color. For Tanat, we discovered that this is enough. So only with the tannins from the seed we are ready with this concentration, and we avoid the extraction from the seed. And the seed is the last part for ripening in the grape. So it made a huge change in our making wine, because now we are able to make these smoother wines with more velvety tannins and a structure that is much more enjoyable. And also the flavors are in haste, because we are able to harvest earlier, at least 2 weeks before, 2 weeks earlier than before. And now all the flavors that you have in the grapes, if you wait, if you overripe, the flavors are all similar, or they all taste like overripe fruit. If you harvest early, you have more fresh flavors, like flowers, like fresh flowers. You have obviously fresh fruit. You have herbal flavors. The herbs, they have a peak and then you lose them.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Also, mineral flavors are in haste, earthiness as well. So you have a wider diversity of aromas in the wine if you are able to harvest earlier. So that's what we discovered. And also, we talked about all these 12 different places that we have. The 12 places have different soils, way different soils.
Oh, really?
And yes, and the impact of those soils is more evident if you are able to enhance all these flavors, because you can differentiate more the final result of the wine. So it's been an amazing journey of winemaking. This discovery, thanks for the Tanat of maceration different, and having this fresh Tanat that help us to discover new places in a better way.
I mean, it's very, I've had Tanat before, and from Uruguay, and it really has been much heavier. As you said, not as palatable. This is just perfect. I mean, just on its own. I mean, it doesn't even need food. It's so wonderful. And I feel like you've captured that expression of the grape without too much, what would I say? Contriving it too much. You know, it's just the pure expression of the grape, I guess, in an early state, but it's really beautiful, beautiful wine.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you very
very
much.
surprised. And for
Thank
anybody
you very
who's
much.
before and said they don't like it, you've got to try this one because it's especially if you like a lighter wine, like a Pinot. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, wow. And it's so different. It's, I mean, they're both very, very, very different, yet equally lovely wines. Let's talk a little bit. Let's go. So we're going from France to Galicia,
Yes.
right? And so this is a perfect summer wine for us. We're getting here in the United States in the 90s this week. So
Yes.
this is your coastal white, and it's an Albarino.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are going to be familiar with Albarino coming from Spain, from Rías Baixas, from Portugal, where it's Alvarinho, so just over the border in northern Portugal. But this again is a very maritime wine. This is a
Yeah.
seafood kind of a wine, a coastal grape, right?
Yes. Yes. And you were talking about Galicia. You know, in
Mhm.
Galicia, it rains almost 1,500 millimeters per year. And in
Well,
Uruguay,
Spain, Spain, right?
yes. And in Uruguay, the average is
Mm.
around 11 to 1,200 millimeters. So
Okay.
we are similar in terms of rains. We are also in front of the Atlantic Ocean. And there's also a big Galician community in Uruguay as well. So
Really?
yes, yes, yes. It makes sense for Uruguay to make good Albarino.
Hmm.
In Uruguay, there's been Albarino since 2002. I think it's 2002.
Okay.
Another winery, Bose, has been planting since 2002. There other wineries have been planting afterwards. So we have, as a country, a big history of making Albarino. Since Albarino it has all this amazing trendiness right now, in the past
Mhm.
3-4 years, the explosion of Albarino worldwide has been amazing. In Galicia, they went from 500,000 liters to 80 million liters in 8 years. So it's been
Wow.
huge, the increase in sales, and they run out of wine every year. So in Uruguay, we don't have that explosion in production, but we also
Mhm.
been increasing the production and the plantation, and we've been recognized worldwide about the quality that we can get in Uruguay for Albarino. And
Well, I
it's
have to
been,
say,
yeah,
I can tell a difference just in the aromas and in the flavors. It's much more pronounced. You've got, it feels like, does this have time on the lees, or it's got a really different body than, because sometimes Alvarino can be a little bit watery. This is not. This
yeah,
is much more concentration, fruit and floral, and much more flavor.
yeah. It has a lot of this
Oil?
contact.
Is
Yeah,
it the climate, or is it the way you make it?
is it is especially the climate. This coastal influence is so important. You can see, you can feel these aromas of the sea foam. You know, it's like walking through the beach. You know, this
Mm,
minerality,
yeah,
these
it's
herbs as
lovely.
well. Yeah.
Mm.
And we discovered a few years ago, making all this research with Albarino, that it is a highly dominant variety. You know, there's some varieties like Viognier in the whites is another one that if you add a little bit of that variety in a blend, it overwhelms, it overtakes the blend, you know,
Mm.
and it feels
Yeah,
almost 100% that.
yeah.
And in this one that you are tasting, which is a Don Pascual coastal wine,
Mhm.
we wanted to get an Albarino wine that could be approachable, you know, because Albarino has been so expensive worldwide, even in Uruguay, that it's been even for Uruguayans, kind of difficult to get to taste some wines because they are so expensive. So we thought, what if we blend it with another varietal so we could have a more accessible cost and also have this freshness in a longer stage. So you can taste this wine even 3-4 years after the harvest and still be very fresh.
Wow.
And that's why we have some Chardonnay in the blend.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
60% Albarino, and then is almost everything there of the rest is Chardonnay with a little bit of some years Pinot Grigio, some years Verdejo, but we make almost all the rest is Chardonnay, and that gives some more structure and more stability for the wine. But you cannot tell it's a Chardonnay. It has
No,
Chardonnay.
but
No,
I can see that that's giving it some backbone,
yeah,
and some ageability, because Alvarinho on its own is a drink now, right? But
yeah.
this is, I'm not sure what is happening exactly, if the Chardonnay is somehow amplifying the flavors, or it's just that it's riper there, but it definitely has much more flavor concentration than Spanish ones that I've tried.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's
I
very
appreciate it.
nice.
Yeah.
That's a perfect summer wine,
Yes, it is.
right?
We drink in my family here, we drink a lot of Albarino during summer, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And these vineyards, so this is coastal, so also like the other one, like the Tanat. So these vineyards also within 30 kilometers or so of
Yes.
the ocean?
Yes, we are in an average at 23 kilometers from the ocean. So there's a big influence from the coast. And there's proven that until even 60 kilometers, you have a big influence. We are 20. And you feel the coast in the vineyards.
And are the soil, so I know Galicia has a lot of granite, especially like Rias
Yes.
Baixas. Do you have any soils like that, or is
We
it a little bit different in
yes,
Uruguay as far as where you grow it?
we do have granite. We do have granite, and we also have places with limestone and clay, especially clay. And we've seen a difference between both places. The granite albariños are more acid, more lineal, less powerful in terms of flavors, has more austerity in the flavors family, and they are amazing for aging in barrels or in fooders. They're
Okay,
amazing for that.
interesting.
In the clay albariños, we have bigger mouth, we have more fruit in the flavor and more explosiveness, like brighter style of albariño. It's not so interesting for aging in oak in our experimentation, but
Mhm.
it is much more interesting for this style of fresh albariños
Yeah,
with a more friendly acidity, because it has acidity, but it's not so acid like granite.
yeah, yeah. It's more of a moderate acidity,
Yes.
and the body is just wonderful. So
Yeah. It's the
yeah.
clay. It's good thing you mentioned, because the clay with limestone, but the clay is what gives more mouth, you know.
Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, so many people don't think about soils, and how it influences the style of the wine, the flavors and things. But I mean, if we put this next to one from Rias Baixas, it's really different.
Yeah, they're
I'm
amazing.
very much enjoying this. Wow, I'm really excited. I also did not know that there was Alvarinho in Uruguay.
No, yes, there is there's quite a lot of Albarino, and you
Hmm.
know we receive groups of journalists and importers that come to Uruguay every year, and like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, they were visiting many wineries, and
Uh-huh.
every time they finish, they gave their opinions, their idea, and every single one of them they were talking, well, it is really good tannats, really good blends. really good Chardonnays and Sauvignon Blancs, but what we are really amazed is with Albareños. And everyone was
Yeah.
talking about the quality of Albareños. And we, as a country, we've been making a huge stand with the Albareños in the trade. You know, if you talk to master wines or master sommeliers, especially in the UK, where we've been making a lot of noise with this, in the press as well, they recognize the Albareños from Uruguay. And last year, the Canter magazine made a tasting of Albareños around the world, outside Iberia, let's say not from Galicia or Portugal, but from all around the world. And you would be amazed about the amount of places that there's Albarino planted and also producing right now. They were
Wow.
Albareños, yes, from Australia, from New Zealand, from South Africa, from England. There were Albareños from France, a lot of Albareños from France. There was a lot of Albareños from different parts of the United States, from Canada. There were some Albareños from Canada. And there
Wow.
were Albareños from Argentina, Chile, Brazil, and Uruguay.
Hmm.
And in that tasting, we, in Familia Deicas, we got the highest score for the Albareños with a 96. There's a 95 from South Africa and a 95 from New Zealand. And there's other wines from different places. So Uruguay is being recognized as in that tasting as the most important place. And we are really, really happy with the result of Albareño being planted in Uruguay.
I think this is wonderful. I mean, really, really great. And it's interesting that you know, blend it with the Chardonnay to give it some more structure, give it some ageability, because I feel like sometimes Iberian ones are just a little too, not watery, but let's just say a little too soft. There's not enough going on. They're nice to drink on a hot day, but this one I can see would be very food friendly, like very, very food friendly. I mean, it's delicious.
Thank you,
So
Anne. Thank you very much.
very impressed. So, well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners today about Familia Deicas and the
Well,
wines?
I encourage everyone to taste our wines from Uruguay. I think that Albarino is always a safe choice because Albarino is a variety that many of them might have heard of or even tasted before. And would be really interesting to start with that. And also taste some Tanat, which nowadays is not as astringent or strong as it used to be, and is more into the flavors, diversity, and it's much more modern style as well. And hope to see you soon. We are traveling, my brother and me, very often to United States to visit the market. So maybe we see each other anywhere soon.
Yes, and maybe you'll stop by at my home base in Commonwealth Wine School and share some of your wines and knowledge with the people in Boston.
Yes, it will be my pleasure, of
Get
course.
up our way. So, cheers. Thank you so
Cheers.
much. I know you can cheers with your mate.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.